Hello again, my little horrorlings. Welcome back. Gather round and Mama will tell you some more nightmare-inducing stories. I was brought up in a small village in Scotland. As a teenager, I used to go out with my friends in the nearest town. We often used to walk the 4 or so miles home, through woods, past 2 graveyards, and underneath a railway bridge. This is what happened to me and my friend one night. It was a dark, wintry night in the mid-1990s. Myself and my friend had been in town, socialising with friends. When the pub closed, we decided to walk home. This would allow us to talk about the night and save on the expensive taxi fare. Although it was late, the night was clear. Being used to the walk, even the 2 graveyards we used to pass, we were in good spirits, laughing and joking. We were leaving the town in order to take the back road cross-country to the village. To get to this road, we had to pass under the railroad. This is the main Dundee to Edinburgh route, but as it was after 1 a.m, we didn't expect any trains to pass. Approaching the bridge, we heard a strange noise coming closer and closer. The ground began to vibrate and we both stopped still in our tracks. Suddenly, speeding overhead, a train passed. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I felt frozen to the spot. The noise was not that of an electric train, it was deafening. As the train passed, I could see in the windows. There did not appear to be electric overhead lights. Instead, the carriage was illuminated by a single lamp that sat on a table next to the window. I could glimpse the suggestion of faces in the windows, looking out, and the shadows of figures sitting beside the lamps as the train sped northwards in. After the train passed and the noise had disappeared into the night, me and my friend just stared at each other, completely speechless. We knew that the train we had just witnessed was not normal. Not only was it travelling in the middle of the night, it looked and sounded unlike anything we had ever seen before, and we had passed under this bridge hundreds of times. We were both shaking and really spooked. We discussed this in detail afterwards. We thought that maybe there was a special train travelling the line for some strange reason, or an old-fashioned vehicle was being transported to another station, but this didn't explain the lack of electric or the strange passengers. Checking with British Rail the next day, no train was scheduled to be passing at that time of night. To this day, we have no explanation for what we saw. We just know that we saw it. We always wondered if it was the doomed train that never made it to the other side of the Tay on that December night in 1879. Was it an unscheduled train? Or was it just 2 teenage girls seeing things in the middle of the night? I'll try my best to recall all the details of this weird event, but it happened over 15 years ago now, so some of the details have faded a bit. When I was around 16 or 17, I was in London for a trip with my mum and dad. We had been there a night or 2 already, and we had been packing a lot into our schedule. We were making our way back to the hotel after a busy and fun day, shopping and going to museums. It was probably around 8:30 or 9 p.m, not too late, but after the crowds had mostly gone. We made our way to the nearest underground station to catch a tube. We were staying out near the Millennium Dome at Greenwich, so we had to change lines at some point to complete our journey. The first part of the journey was totally normal, but when we got to the platform at the second station to catch the second train, things got weird. I can't remember the name of the station, but it was more towards the outskirts of the tube system, so it was quieter and there were fewer people around. It was also even later by this point, but whatever the reason, there weren't many other people about when we got there. We made our way to the platform and a train was just leaving. The info board said another was due in about 10 minutes, so we got ourselves near where we thought a door would stop, a little game that we liked to play, and we waited. Because we had just missed a train, we were the only people on the platform. We just chatted and waited. Eventually, a couple made their way onto the platform and stood a little way up. They seemed like they were tourists also. Before we knew it, there was the familiar rumbling of a train approaching from the tunnel, so we gathered our bags and got ready to board. It was a couple of minutes early, but this wasn't a bad thing as we were tired and ready to get back to the hotel. When the train pulled in, the sign on the front that usually has the destination on it was blank, which was odd. I also didn't see the driver, which is also odd, as London Underground trains have large windows at either side of the front cockpit area, so that the driver can see where they are going. The strangest thing about this train, though, was that no one was on it. Not a single passenger. We were standing towards the back of the platform, positioned to board the last carriage, so the whole train had to pass by us before it stopped, and there was no one else on board. It came to a stop and the doors opened. I felt uneasy and looked over to my parents. My mum caught my eye and looked worried. My dad took a step towards the train and my mum stopped him, saying, "No, don't get on the train. We'll get the next one." My dad was a bit annoyed and confused, but he could see from the looks on our faces that we were freaked out about something, so he agreed and stayed put. Further along the platform, the other couple were also still standing on the platform, looking at the open door but not getting on. I don't know if they were following our lead or if they also felt that something was off. After a minute or so, though it felt much longer, the train doors closed and it pulled away from the station, still with no passengers. A couple of minutes later, the scheduled train arrived. The sign on the front had a destination. You could clearly see the driver, and we also noticed the rush of wind, or, I suppose, the movement of air as the train pushed the air out of the tunnel and into the station as it approached. The empty train that had pulled into the station created no rush of air when it arrived. The doors opened and there were other passengers on board. It just felt different. It felt normal and safe. We got on and made our way back to the hotel. My dad asked us what had happened with the other train and my mum told him there was something wrong with it. It wasn't right. I feel like if we had got on it, something bad would have happened. I wish, in a way, that it had been more dramatic, with flickering lights and a set of ghostly passengers, or a demonic driver and a disappearing train, as it would be easier to say what exactly was going on with the train that we saw. All I know is that an unscheduled train with no visible driver, passengers, or destination pulled up in the station without creating any disturbance to the air in the tunnel around it, and I did not want to get on. Thank you for listening, my little horrorlings. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of tonight's stories. Give this video a thumbs up and hit the notification bell to find out first about new videos. And whatever you do, don't forget to check for monsters underneath your bed. Sweet dreams.